obviously we've been through a lot of different topics, but why don't we just start off with the elephant in the room again, because the elephant in the room is different for everybody. Mike, just make sure we only have one mic. Perfect. Mike, what has happened to the digital workplace since COVID? Insofar as, is this not what we envisaged the digital workplace to be?
Well, the digital workplace moved home, didn't it? and in almost semi-permanent style. Probably now 24 weeks since I moved the Infosec team out of Zen back to their own houses. The vast majority of the organization, so we're a relatively small organization. Just for those that don't know, I lead security at an ISP based in the Manchester region. And we moved around 600 members of our workforce out of the office into their home in the space of 10 working days. And that meant that we had to equip them with technology and even things like seating and desks and all that kind of stuff to make their experience of working from home comfortable. And guess what? That brought around quite a few security considerations along the way. And so part and parcel of that was making sure that we were equipping devices with VPN access, locking down things, putting extra additional monitoring in so that we could capture anything that was coming in through people's home internet connections, and writing a lot of guidance documents. So that was pretty much our first few weeks under COVID, Pelham, just to give you a little insight.
A lot of guidance, and it sounds like an interesting vision of the digital workplace. Shawn, if I go back to you, you were here this morning opening up, talking about the CISO of the future. If we ask the question about the digital workplace, is this what we had in mind, or is it completely different than what we had planned?
It's a good question, because I've been considering that a lot, because I'm also part of our Future Ways of Working initiative at Thames Water as well. So I'm glad to be part to represent security there for sure. I think for the most part, for people that we used to call knowledge workers, I think this is what we envisioned, is that you'd be online when you needed to be, you'd use the tools that were available to us. But there's a whole group of people that this is really a big inconvenience for them. People that actually have to touch things in the field. And in my industry, there's a lot of that. And I don't think that we've really thought through how they'll be able to never go to a base station, for instance, to have like their normal meetings and that sort of thing. So I think that we have a gap there. And then I mentioned this morning, and I'll mention it again, that, we have quite a large hybrid call center environment as well. And that was where the biggest drama for me was to invent ways for desktop systems to be remote, sitting in people's home networks, to also have a virtual desktop environment to be able to have the call center capabilities that they would have, and some new partnerships as well. So it was quite significant. But I think if someone's to force my hand and say, did you think it was going to look like this a year ago? I would have said no, but will it look like this a year from now? I think, yeah, I think this is the way that the new normal is going to be, yeah.
I like it. I mean, obviously I like it because I love working remotely, but what about you, Ruchika? Is this the new normal? Is this what you as an MSP envisaged for the digital workplace?
Yeah, exactly. This new world, due to this enforced work from home culture, which has changed which has actually impacted the whole world of work, or indeed the culture of work, and gives a lot of positive things. If we look at the positive side, that includes the productivity. Productivity. Our customers are saying that the productivity of the employees have increased as per the statistics. If you see the statistics also from IBM or Statistica, so and the flexibility that has helped in improving the product is actually motivating the customers or employees to work efficiently. And flexibility, and most important thing is the communication. We can just any customer, any person can connect with anyone with just a click. Like see this virtual event, where everyone is coming from from the different places, and we are just talking in a one forum. So as a MSP, it gives us an opportunity to enable our customers to work from home. And the shift has changed. Earlier, there was no requirement for remote desktop as a service, but now our customers are coming for the solution like remote desktop as a service. They don't have the resources, or they don't want to invest the money. So with just one click, they can access any application from anywhere in the world. So as a MSP, it gives us a very new platform also to enable our customer. And apart from this, users and data is everywhere. So does the security is very important than ever, and it should be everywhere. So for that, for cybersecurity to be everywhere, it has to be delivered as a service. So now everything, all the technology we are selling as a service. Earlier in the traditional environment, everything was on premise. Now everything is on the cloud. So the requirement for remote service is increasing day by day. From the last 3-4 months, we can see the requirement for remote service is increasing rather than the on-site support. So that shift has come, and it gives a whole paradigm. Customer needs to see the security as a first perspective, because when you move towards the cloud for the flexibility, for the scalability, so that needs to be considered. Needs to be considered. And the customers are really, adopting to the new work culture, working from home. So we are enabling in everything. And I'll give you one example. When one of our customer who is in healthcare sector, when this shift has changed, when that lockdown has come in place, so because their IT team was so overloaded with work, so what they have done to provide the access, they have just opened the port of the firewall, and they have not analyzed the impact on security. So that MSP, can easily see where are the challenges, where are the loopholes are open. So we can easily see, though company can also see, but they need to have, own resources, expertise, and that involves cost to have all that checks in place. So I think MSP plays a very important role in working from home and helping our customers to work from anywhere.
Lovely. Well, yeah, working from anywhere is certainly what we found. What I ask Arnold? Arnold, surely we had this laptop lifestyle before. Surely this digital workplace is in fact the very same. Or am I mistaken? Is it actually different since COVID, Arnold?
It's actually changed a fair bit, in the sense that it started off being very much a technology issue, whereby the technology that we had deployed for people to work from home occasionally became an essential technology for people to work from home all the time. And the bigger issue was actually a cultural one, in terms of shifting away from presenteeism, where people think, oh, the number of hours you're in the office is what really matters, to a point where it's about the outcomes. And that's a very cultural aspect. And then another interesting aspect of it is that even though sort of like the executive team understood that we had deployed technology for people to work from home, because they were only being used on and off, they didn't see them as the critical technologies that they became in the new work from home environment. And so 2 aspects really. One is the conversations with the executive teams changed, because they now saw the value of security, remote access, and the implications, especially when it came to working from home and data protection and all these other aspects which were there, but were not seen in the same light in terms of being critical and essential to the business. And then, of course, the managers who would have teams of people that they could look over their shoulders, were no longer able to do that physically. They had to learn a new way of managing, which was very much about outcomes, results, and other measures, and looking at profiles of how many hours people are on different systems and what they were doing and those kinds of things, some of which can be quite controversial, especially in environments with unions and such like. But the point is the two aspects. One is the technology aspect we already had resolved and solved because it was always available as a part-time aspect of 1 day a week working from home. Whereas now it's an every day of the week, and it's also the management, the cultural aspects.
And you bring up that very interesting dark point, which is, monitoring and perhaps, keeping someone's webcam on in their own home to monitor their work and all the dark things that can happen there. Well, we can go into that side a bit later. What about you, Daniel? Obviously, I know you are, based in Germany. You have a European outlook, but is this the same across Europe? Is that even a good question? I imagine it's the same, but has the digital workplace changed from place to place?
Yeah, absolutely. So Matrix 42 is an international vendor, software vendor, headquartered in Germany, and there are some challenges. For example, Matrix 42 decided to move their employees to the home office on March 13th. So before the lockdown came, because we said, okay, we need to be prepared. And it was very easy for us because we've got cloud services, we've got security measures like EDR and so on, which also works in home offices, etc. But we can see that our customers and also some partners have had a lot of challenges because they have not been able to move their people to home. And as the other one also said before, there have not been data protection measures, and people used, for example, cloud storages, also USB devices, etc., to store their data to get the data from the office to the home offices. And a lot of data has been stolen, and also, for example, emoted attacks are back. Because there are not the same security mechanism as in the offices. And also firewall doesn't exist. So there are some challenges because it's not centralized anymore. We've got country-specific laws. For example, in Germany, you've got some issues in case of monitoring, because we've got a lot of privacy protection rules. For example, we also got workers' council. So it's not allowed to do any kind of monitoring if the workers' council doesn't accept it, etc. This doesn't exist in the US, for example. So our US colleagues, they don't matter about monitoring, but the German does. And this is very interesting. Also for companies like Volkswagen, BMW, etc., which are also based in a lot of countries. And we need to find a solution for the customers and also for the managed service provider to use security mechanisms in any countries. And it doesn't matter which kind of devices are in use. The employees need to work with any device, anytime and everywhere. Doesn't matter in which country.
Okay.
But they need to stay secure. Yeah, sure.
Exactly. And so let's run with that security theme, because if I ask Graeme, you've been here for the whole event. Thank you very much. You've seen a load of presentations. You've been very vocal in the chat. So and we love that. We love that, right? Let's combine the question of the digital workplace to say, fine, how can the SMB open up to all this wonderful new sparkly remote technology without opening it up to some unexpected security threats?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, this is to James. Cheers, James.
Okay.
Only James will know. Interesting. As Daniel and you and I chatted yesterday, I've worked from home since I took early retirement from the government. And for me, it's always been a safe environment. And I've got various tools in place that enable me to be in a bubble and do what I do. And I do strange things on deep due diligence with people and go to places that most people don't. I need to protect myself. So everything is in place for me. When all this crisis started, my daughter, who was then living with me, worked for a recruitment company in central London. and she started working from home every day. Ironically, she has access, obviously, to my connections and broadband, but I could access their company's CV database because she was uploading to their cloud storage via my broadband connection. And we had a little sit down and a chat. And I think what's really interesting is that we've talked about it all day, and as Phelan knows, I'm quite vocal about it. The lack of training, education, and awareness is just a joke. People don't understand the risks, and we need a new regime of doing that and rolling out to people who are working from home that you've got to put practices in place. I wrote a risk assessment for their CEO, and they got back to work about a month ago, and they got 3 or 4 people back into the office so they can actually do work properly. But people are struggling. I mean, I'm struggling. I'm in lockdown. I haven't been out for 6 months. I just want to go out for a beer, you know, and I can't. But there are grave dangers, and there's been lots of talks, and Mostyn was spot on with what he said earlier, I think. We need to be really careful on what we're doing. You need to be getting best of breed people out there coming in to help you do stuff. SMEs, small businesses can't afford the full works, but you need trusted partners. And that's the way ahead. And I'm doing a lot of work at the moment with the cyber helpline. And I think that's quite relevant at the moment. And I did a podcast yesterday, which I'll send to Phelan if he's interested, but we were talking about people being scammed at the moment during the crisis, people getting work emails and being scammed at home while working from home. And the cyber helpline is there to offer a free service for anyone who is a victim, full stop. They have been inundated. They've had 150,000 cases in the last year.
Okay, yeah, that is the darker side. That is the darker side. But in terms of this security dynamic, and you know, you mentioned home broadband, everyone on there. Shawn, this kind of sounds to me like the traditional IT/OT debate. Oh, you don't need to connect the OT because now you've opened it up to more things. It sounds like we're going through the same process again, but with home working. Or have I got the wrong end of the stick, Shawn?
Well, I think there's, for me, I've seen a combination of those different sides of the same coin, as it were, and because we have quite a wide type of user base. You know, we've got people that used to think that working from home meant you would email your work to your personal email account and then do your work at home, which is still a battle. I can't believe I still have to fight. And then we also have people who think it's okay to use their kid's gaming computer to do work when they're working from home. Again, you know, I can't believe I have to still fight that battle. But those two things are pretty still relevant, you know, relevant within my risk profile. But I think that one of the things that I've been listening quite intently, and I have lost my view of the small business. And it's really interesting to hear the comments from Graeme about the small business, because, you know, we have quite a lot of resources. We have access to some excellent partners, and quite a strict awareness routine, but we still have failures. So I think that we are in that world where people think that it's okay to have a game running on the background of their machine when they're doing work and these sort of things. And so there's a new nuance there that really wasn't necessarily there. And it brings that question of monitoring and what people are allowed to do. Because we have cloud services, we do open it up to untrusted devices as well. It's part of the nature of making people be able to work more efficiently. And there's quite a strong desire inside the business to be able to allow that. So I've got to watch multiple different entrance and exit points for our data and attackers to get into. So it's quite busy. And I can only just imagine the kind of resistance that people in smaller organizations are having. But I think the biggest concern I have, and I did mention it this morning as well, is the idea that people can bring their own tools to work. You know, so we're using Zoom, which I think is fantastic, but it isn't the corporate tool. We have Teams as the corporate tool, and I could rattle off a long list of different kinds of services that in their own right are fine. but to use them outside of the normal paths makes a little bit difference for incident tracking, for forensic analysis, for just contractual obligations with regards to protecting our data. And I think that's the kind of thing that I think is going to continue to get a little bit more worrisome as we go forward.
Yeah, the dark one. Graeme, you wanted to jump in?
Yeah, just to follow on what from Shawn said, it's not just about small businesses, large businesses, it's about individuals. At the moment, I'm supporting some Great Ormond Street hospital clinicians, and they're being stalked online for doing what they do, which is trying to keep us alive. I find that horrendous. And that's again through lack of training on, okay, you might be working at home occasionally, you're coming into the office, you might be a target, you need to be aware of what's going on out there. And we're getting people scammed for like £150,000. I'm looking at a case at the moment. I mean, it's just scary stuff, you know. It impacts us all.
It's sad, yeah. No, especially with God. So, Mike, you've got a really big community, and you had a very interesting perspective. How are they going to keep themselves safe?
We're kind of in that small business bracket from the number of people in our workforce. So, as I mentioned at the start, we've got just shy of about 600 people that work at Zen Internet. But we are an ISP, so we serve hundreds of thousands of customers. But from our own point of view, it goes back to some of the points that Shawn and Graeme made. You know, we don't allow the bring your own toys and tools thing. Okay, we strictly enforce that if you're going to connect to any of our services in order to do your job, you will do that via equipment and connectivity that we provide to you as individuals. So we're reasonably confident that when a member of our operations team is entering a card payment from a customer, they're not doing it on any other system than the one that we've given them. And they're not accessing that system in any other fashion than the way we allow them to access it. So we've kind of got authentication reasonably sorted out. We've got the tooling and the technology right the way down to the hardware, mobile device management and TPM and all that kind of stuff are things that we heavily enforce in terms of our workforce. But I will caveat that with it's relatively easy for us to do that because we're only worrying about 500 or 600 people. We don't have a workforce of 15,000 people, in which case the manageability of it would become incredibly cumbersome and difficult, and that would and therefore would explode our risk profile out significantly. I talked at the start around guidance. So, and in technology and security specifically, we talk about people, process, and technology. And I think, you know, you can mess the technology and process order around a little bit, but you can't remove people from number one. And that's all around awareness and equipping people with the right knowledge, as well as the technology and the process. But really awareness and knowledge is what it's all about. You know, we don't hear it so much now because thankfully it's gone away as a concept, this idea of people being the weakest link. Well, actually, people are the strongest link in everything that we do, whether it's your frontline operations team, your billing and finance and credit people, your receptionist on the building, yeah? Right the way through to your technicians and your security professionals and all that. It's people all the way through. And if there is a problem, then it's a people problem. Okay. And if a control fails, then it's a technical control that wasn't implemented by a person. And that's really our take on it. So when we're talking about phishing campaigns, you know, the messages go out all the time, how to avoid phishing, how to spot malware, you know, it's there, it's in people's faces. Too much information? Maybe, but too much is more. And that's the attitude that we take as an organization. And at the end of the day, if we have a compromise or a breach, then we can't point to anything other than a control failure because the people are aware of it. So something went wrong somewhere upstream in the technology. So that's our approach. Is it perfect? Not at all. It's not perfect. It's a best effort. But I think we're doing everything reasonable within our power as security professionals and as an organization to make sure that our people are secure. And therefore, by virtue of that, the organization's secure. So the sermon is over.
No, it's good. It's good. And it's nice to welcome the beer farmers, at least one member of the group, to this. Let's stick with you then, Mike, because my next question says, in the spirit of the MSS forum, we are looking to work out what the MSP or MSS of tomorrow should look like. But in the current climate, you know, people are trying to hang on to customers. Maybe I'm not talking about any one MSP, but I'm saying in order to keep clients and build businesses, what new partners or technology is going to be bundled or going to be harnessed? Before with Mostyn, we were talking maybe training and development. What's the MSP of tomorrow going to look like? What's your thoughts?
I'm not an MSP, but I have thoughts. Okay, so that's full disclosure. The move to cloud, and again, Shawn spoke about it and Daniel spoke about it previously. The move to cloud is really important, particularly for productivity services like mail and collaboration. All right, that's really important. We've had incidents just this week where we've got a hybrid setup of people on Office Microsoft 365 for mail, and we've still got legacy accounts that are still on-prem. Okay, we spotted malware on the 365 accounts that we wouldn't have spotted on our legacy Exchange platform, and that's a worry, right? So if we've got everybody on the mail 365, then we've got higher visibility and monitoring of things that are going on, you know, bad actors hitting people with phishing attacks, dropping malware onto our network and all that kind of thing that we wouldn't otherwise have had visibility of in our legacy infrastructure. So for me, that move is imperative because A, you're securing your users, and you've got things like multi-factor authentication that you can start deploying to people, which makes it almost impossible for an attacker to obtain an account or take over an account. But also you've got all that visibility of the rubbish that they're receiving in their mail that you probably wouldn't have seen previously. And that unlocks a great deal of insight into the behavior of users on your network and attackers on your network. So that's a really, really big thing. For me, awareness is incredibly important. So out in the MSP space, it's incumbent on anybody providing those services to be sending awareness out to their user base. And that can be in the form of just digestible knowledge that can be shared, and you may not make any money from it, but it's certainly a really good behavior to have in terms of we care about our customer space. In terms of winning new business, be innovative. So recognize the signs and portents that are happening out there in the industry. COVID has brought about a whole brand new attack vector for criminals, and they're playing on the theme of COVID. And they're getting you to click on links you wouldn't have otherwise clicked on, you know, give cash to a thing that's been created in support of COVID and all that kind of stuff. You know, we've seen it all before. It's a new theme, but the people out there in the world are doubly concerned. On the one hand, they're worrying about their health and well-being, and that can be physical health, mental health, which is another angle that often is overlooked, that how has this period of weirdness affected everyone's mental health? Working from home for 6 months, you know, you got your kids in the house, you got your dog barking every 5 minutes, your ability to concentrate has been massively compromised, and you're going to accidentally take more risks because you need to get a task done, but you might not think that task through properly and send that email that you probably wouldn't have sent had you had more time to think and concentrate. So again, Palim, it's back in the court of people and how we deal with people in the context of this. We've got a technical solution for pretty much everything. We do. What we need to do is plug it into the people, the actual people, the thing we fundamentally care about. Because if the people are secure and behaving securely, then we've got a chance. So yeah, again, sermon over.
Yeah, very good, very good. And sorry, I didn't mean to imply that you're an MSP or an ISP, which is important. But what about you, Ruchika? What is the MSP going to bundle next?
So when we are talking in this current scenario, when we are talking about the cloud and remote working, that means we are, first of all, from security perspective, users are not that protected. So we need to take care of that. On the other side, when we are buying any new services, it involves cost. Then it requires training, as Mike has rightly mentioned. It requires training and then monitoring it. So I think as cloud delivered MSP, where we can provide the cloud services and provide the services wrap around it, where we can manage the services, infrastructure, the cloud services, because everything is going to be on cloud as the current as per the current scenario. So implementing, managing, monitoring all the, whether it is SaaS, PaaS, or it is any of the X as a service, security as a MSP, we need to bundle our services along with the security around these services. Then only I think we will digitally or make the transformation in the industry. So I think that's my take. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's good. That's important. And what about you, Arnold? What would you like this MSP to look like, and what collaborative partners, should it have?
Yeah, a few things I just want to comment on briefly. In terms of working from home and all that, and the changes that have happened, I think it's quite interesting to see how some of the ones that are perceived as negative have actually had a positive impact. For instance, I think Mike was mentioning one of someone's dog barking in the background, or a kid running behind the video or whatever. But those things actually have had a positive impact in the sense that, for example, some of the colleagues that I work with have become more human to me, in terms of it humanizes them to know that, oh, he's got a poodle, or he's got a Jack Russell, or whatever dog he has. And that element, though it might initially look negative, has actually become a positive. And then the other aspect I was going to say is that with the move to cloud, which has been happening over the last few years, it's very critical that MSPs have to actually demonstrate the value add and be ready to take responsibility in articulating, especially the boundary type issues around if you're using a cloud service broker, or if you are engaging directly with the provider for your service, or whoever, whether you're dealing with AWS or whether you're dealing with Microsoft, it doesn't matter. There is that need where the MSP can actually add real value by articulating what they can bring to the table. And they need to be able to demonstrate that a lot more, because with the move to cloud, I expect they need to be able to demonstrate where their value is really, and how they add that value in terms of, it was easier for them to demonstrate it when we had a different model, which was very much on-premise and all this kind of thing. With the cloud, I think that message needs to be sharpened, and the MSP needs to really show where they're adding value. And then maybe, I mean, just from the experience of dealing with half a dozen MSPs, maybe some improvements in how they communicate what they're doing for the client, because sometimes they do things without actually explaining to the client what the benefits are, especially business type benefits, and being able to articulate those business type benefits and say, oh, this is what we're doing for you, and this is how it's adding value and why it's protecting your business or reducing the risks in this area or that area. So it's that kind of communication, which I think will be one of the key aspects that I'll look for from a modern MSP.
Okay, perfect. No, I like it. And then Daniel, as someone really in this space of helping MSPs, what are you going to bundle for them? What are you what's next for them to bundle?
Yeah. So first of all, any managed service provider should be focused. So a managed service provider should be focused, for example, on security only, and not other stuff. And it's interesting for me. For example, we've got a managed service provider which sells services, for example, in case of EDR, event handling, and so on. And they extended their portfolio with a so-called incident response retainer, which means that if you've got any data breaches or whatever, they come to you, physical or virtual, and minimize the damage because they know your infrastructure in case of EDR managed services and other topics, and they reduce the incident response time. So they say that they get the paperwork upfront and save at least 4 days when breaches happens. So this is very interesting. So you can bundle your knowledge, for example, in case of malware protection, and then you can say, okay, if anything happens, we are we are on standby to help you when you need us. So this is not only, yes, we've got a solution and we manage it, and so that's all. This is also, if there's any incident, no problem, we come to you, we help you, and we've get it done. So this is very interesting, and yeah, in case of on-site, it's a challenge because of who knows about the next lockdowns, but a lot of tasks and topics can be done remote. So this is also possible.
I like it. And before we move on, Ruchika, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to add one point where Arnold has very clearly described, what he's expecting from the MSP. So when I was talking about the, the investment, when we start any cloud service or any service, it involves the cost. So MSP helps in, if any customer wants to go with MSP, so that initial investment, customer need not to make that initial investment in the management or operational cost, which would be taken care by the MSP because of the additional thing, when we are talking that how the MSP will grow and what kind of bundle services we will provide. So as a bundle service, we will take the initial investment of service plus the cost involved in training the resources, implementing, managing, or monitoring, plus the security revolved around it. So that's the value addition and the services of which MSP would like to, going forward. Yeah, that's the point. Thank you so much for giving me
no. It's good clarification. Graeme, what then is left for the MSP or the SMSP or the MSS? What's left?
I think I might have summed it up in a link I put on for an interview I did yesterday. And it's talking about all the issues that have been a constant thread throughout the day. And I think if people are engaging with MSS, MSPs or whatever, I'm confused, what are they? At the end of the day, it's all about trusting people to look after your business, doing relevant due diligence. And I think that is very, very important. We've devoted what we're doing at the Optimal Risk Group to the crisis since February, March time. And what we're trying to do is get people back to work. But because I think we're a trusted company, we've had great traction. And that's what it's all about. Get the right people with the right skill sets in to support the business, because the businesses need help. And today we are in a very difficult climate and it ain't going to get any better.
Okay. No, that's a stark thing, but we're going to face up to it.
Chat some rules, I hope.
Yeah, no, it's fine. And that's why on this panel, this is our mega panel, right? And our mega panel, we've done it a few times at these MSS events. We're trying to draw in people from all of the different angles that we've had throughout the day, to sort of look at it. We're sort of a little over time, but if I ask you, Shawn, you've been here on the panel at the beginning and the panel at the end. I know we're going to welcome Nathan very soon, just for something else. But how has it been for you, Shawn? And what's the takeaway for you?
I've really enjoyed it. I've been doing my job during the day, so I've been bouncing in and out, so I haven't been able to watch the whole thing, and I'm disappointed that I haven't been able to, because as I would dip in and dip out, it was just incredible, the quality that everybody was talking about, and it wasn't all about COVID, which was excellent, and it was more generalized than that, and I think that one thing that I did want to comment on is I think that MSPs and MSSPs, and fill in the acronym soup there, it's a hard job. I've been fortunate. I've been on both sides of that in my time, and I know how challenging it is. And I think that it's important that these sort of sessions happen where you can hear from different views and different angles. And I'm really delighted that I've been able to participate. But I think on my advice to MSPs is think like you're them, right? So think like the customer. And it sounds like a cliche, but I really mean it. Is that when you think about the core driver for most organizations, it'll be surprised to know it's not making money. You know, some organizations, it's more about the people. For me, for our organization, it's more about the health and well-being of London, to be honest. And that's kind of what we care about the most. And to get yourself in that situation, because internally, you know, with my internal team, they think like the company, and the better that my MSPs think like the company, the better the relationship, and it's a much easier journey. You know, I think that's really important. And then the second thing is understanding what the service levels are. I think most of the challenges that I've ever seen when I'm dealing with my partners is that they tend to do favors too many times. And if anybody's familiar with the Kano model, the better you perform, the higher the expectations, and you're just on a road to nowhere. And I think it's always important to keep in mind, you know, what is the baseline of performance? So I just want to bring those two things up, because I think it's going to become really, really important as we add new features, we add new commitments with regards to awareness and training and these sort of things, which I'm sure will come. We just have to keep that in mind.
Lovely. All right, we are now over, and I thought I'd just squeeze that in because I know, Shawn, you've been there at the beginning and the end. Let's give our mega panel a round of applause. Thank you, Shawn. Thank you, Mike and the Beer Farmers. Thank you, Daniel, Arnold, Graeme, and Ruchika. This has been a great panel. I'll see you in the audience, and I'll just invite Nathan up for our final session. This is really great. Thank you very much. We've got Mostin saying thanks. We've got Tim clapping. It's great. You know, it's nice to have this interactivity even here, because you know this is a full day event, and people have come in and dipped out, but it's really interesting. So let's invite Nathan to the stage. Now, Nathan is a CISO of 2 startups, and